Hi Duncan. So thanks for sending the lesson over. Um, so I've just used a Tiger Woods on the right hand side here. Obviously it's an iron, but the movements that you're gonna kind of need to feel to incorporate into your own swing. Um, the Tiger Woods sort of model swing is a decent way of going at it. So from setup, the initial sort of stuff that I would look at changing is just how you where the pressure sort of sits in your feet. So you can see you sort of very much sort of sat back on your heels, a little bit too far away from the ball. The pelvis then starts to sit quite flat. The spine angle then is just a little bit too upright. I'd have you a little bit more tilted over, so a little bit more tilt in the pelvis, and then less flex in the knees. That then will feel like you're a little bit more on sort of the middle of your feet. Okay, so the issue you've got is from their position where you are now with the pressure in the heels, almost sat a little bit flat and a little bit too far away from it. It's going to make it much easier for you to kind of roll the club on the way back. So as you go from position 1 to position 2, which is when the shaft is parallel to the ground, the hands and arms really start to whip the club in on the inside. Okay, so there's just way too much forearm rotation for the position at number 2, which is when the shaft's parallel to the ground. So the easiest way to change your swing is to just copy the pictures. Okay, so this here is the same frame where the shaft's parallel to the ground. You can see the difference of where the face is and where that sort of lead wrist is pointing. It's very much at the ball. Okay, so as you take it back now, you've rolled the arms behind you. The problem is now, because everything is just so far behind, you've really now got to create a lot of wrist leverage in the swing. So as you start to go back, you can see just faintly how this wrist starts to cup, and what that does then is it starts to open the face up. The issue with that is, as you go up to the top now, with the wrist in the position that it is, it's going to open the face, and what that will then make you do is swing the club effectively out on the way down. So as the balance point of the shaft starts to disappear behind the hands, the way you're going to get this back behind the hands now is to drive the hands out and forward. So on the way down now, you can see how you get this huge shift of the hands almost go sort of through the middle of the circle here and then way out in front. Okay, but if you then look at the angle of the shafts, it looks pretty good. Okay, it points pretty much outside of the ball, which is exactly what you want. So if I just zoom forward to the Tiger Woods one, yes, on the way down, when the lead arm is parallel to the ground, the angle of the shaft is in exactly the same position. But if you look at the difference of where your hands are, they've shifted so far outwards. Okay, you're just literally almost going to run out of space. So what then starts to happen, in order for you to keep the balance point of the shaft trailing behind the hands, you have to really shift your pelvis forward at 100 miles an hour, and you can see now at impact, take all these lines off, you are literally straight, flat in the pelvis. Again, if we go to sort of just post impact, you can see the difference in the body angles. So this is going to do numerous things. It makes it really, really difficult to square the club face up. You've got to be really careful because you're going to start to have lower back problems. Striking is also going to become much more of an issue from this position. You know, if your pelvis is thrusting forward, so early extension is the correct term. So you early extend to enable the balance point of the shaft to stay behind the hands. But what you're going to get, if the pelvis is shifted in this direction on this arrow, because that carries weight or mass, what you're going to have to do is move something back in the opposite direction in order for you to keep your balance. So if you actually just go back, and it's hard to reference it because the camera's not at a still point, green here, and you notice how far your backside at address is sort of this side of that green, and then we go through to an impact position, okay, which is pretty much here. You can see you're probably looking this much in terms of you shifting forward, which is just impossible. So what we want to try and go down the lines of, first of all, so yes, copying the pictures is going to be a good point, but we want to try and get the idea of the pelvis stays in a tilt, which allows the spine angle to go in a tilt. As you work back, there is a degree of what you would call side bend, so you can see the left shoulder at this point works underneath his chin, and the right shoulder is obviously a lot higher. The arms have not rotated, so the club head stays in front of the hands. What that enables then to do is, because you are not initially rotating, the hands are obviously nowhere near where yours are on the way back, so you can see how you really roll that club and really put the hands behind you. As you then go to this position, again, it's slightly misleading and looks quite steep here and inside of the ball because you just loaded the wrists up so much. But where we should be looking is the shaft plane should be on the inside of the ball, and then on the way down the hands effectively move back to the same position or work on the same plane line, but the shaft will slightly steepen. Okay, so initially you're going to feel no wrists and just copying that frame there. Get yourself into that first piece there, and you should find then a lot of it sort of self-regulates itself. A lot of your issues come from being so flat with the forearms and so sort of rotating, a lot of forearm rotation. Because you then go so sort of inside here, you will get it to a point where the club will want to point out and across the line here, and then again you will get that huge jump out with the hands. So the hands just get so far out in front of the body, it's just impossible to control what the club's doing. So you're kind of making, you're doing a good job of controlling just poor positions really, but I would initially focus on the backswing. So I think probably the best thing to do initially is do this in two parts. So I'm not going to charge you any extra, but rather than me just absolutely bombard you with stuff that you need to do, is initially you can go away and work to a point where the hand path is much more one plane. So you can see here how much it works on a two plane. So I'm just drawing where your sort of left hand goes in the swing. With most good players, you can see that it's very much one plane with the hands, so the hands will pretty much return back to the same point. Okay, and then again on the way through, on the way down, you can see the difference of where the hands are. Again, yours shoot way out in front of you, but a lot of this is just trying to facilitate where the club is at the top of the swing. I would still look at videos, training videos, put in advanced golf pivot. There's some really good videos on there, and effectively how to keep all your tilts in good order. So your pelvis, your spine angle, your shoulder plane start to look a lot more about what the body's doing. But effectively the body is in a poor position because it's trying to facilitate where the club is at the top of the swing. Again, trying to simplify it, you're much better off working at a point here like the Tiger Woods one, where the shaft initially now, or the balance point of the shaft, is behind the hands, as opposed to yours. Because you go so far behind here, you're going to want to be in that position there, and you just stop it. You just stop it short, but it's almost not enough really. But yeah, keeping it simple, we need to work at this position. So stopping the forearm rotation, getting the shaft a little bit steeper on the way back and getting the hands initially working up more sort of one plane or through one circle and more down, you know, more getting the top of the backswing looking a lot more like this with the correct tilts through looking at, you know, advanced pivot videos and things like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Resend it over when you've been to the range a couple of times, Duncan, and we'll go again. It's quite hard, I'll be honest, doing the sort of online to that sort of depth, but I'd rather get it right for you rather than you know, just do some sort of half bothered attempt. So watch this video a couple of times just to kind of get it in your head. As I say, there's probably 3 or 4 big things there, but hopefully you've got enough of an idea in terms of the direction that you need to go. But by all means, feel free to give me a call, and you know, we can talk if needs be. Cheers.